Hi everyone, Mike Palmer here. In this video, Jessica Lockey of Indivisible Brattleboro shows you how to use Google Forms to collect and use information from new group members and to conduct surveys. It's the third of 3 videos on Google tools that help groups communicate better and increase their effectiveness.
So the third tool that I want to share is Google Forms. And again, the way that you can access this is through the Google Workspace. If you have a Google account, you go to drive.google.com. It's free for anyone with a Google account, and you can access it any web browser that you're logged into. So I'm going to click here on New and go to Google Forms. Just backing up a little, the purpose of Google Forms is, you can use it for whatever you want, but for Indivisible and for, these activist organizing groups, it's really, really useful for collecting information from people. So like collecting, phone numbers, emails, personal info, asking about interest in certain things. Like when we started our group, we made this survey that basically said, what are you interested in? How are you willing to get involved in our group? How often are you available? That kind of information. And it makes it really easy to collect information from people and to organize it and filter through it and actually be able to use it so that you're not like having people write down their information on a piece of paper that then gets lost or you have to do data entry for it. It's all just very clean and online. So Google Form, this is the back end view of the form. It's not what people will actually see when they fill it out. It's for you to do the design work. Let's title this. We're going to call it Volunteer Interest Form. And then there's a spot for a form description. So this form is used to collect information about potential volunteers with our grassroots activist group. And these are like the information that I'm typing is what people will actually see. So you want to think about, how it will appear to someone coming to your form for the first time. So then you have the question, and there are a ton of different options for your questions here. You can have it be a short answer question. So this is really useful for just collecting people's names. So the question might be, what is your first and last name? And then they can respond with a short answer text. There's no parameters around it. They can just type into that box and it'll collect the answer. Let's try another example. So I'm going to select the paragraph. So this is very similar to short answer. It just allows you more characters in response. So a good one for this one might be, tell us about why you're interested in joining our group. And then they have a longer space to respond to that. There's a few tools down here or features that are really useful. So required is good, especially if you're collecting someone's information, their first name, last name, email address, phone number. If you really need all that information from people, you can make it required so they can't actually submit the form until they select or until they complete that information. For this question, tell us about why you're interested. I don't think it's super important for our purposes, so I'm going to not require it. And then if I want to duplicate this, there's this, box on top of another box. Click that, and it just duplicates the question. So maybe I want to tweak it slightly. Tell us about why you're interested in joining our group. Tell us about how you want to be involved in our group. All right, so again, it's a long answer text response, but slightly different question. And then let's say I change my mind. I don't actually want that question on there. I can just delete it here. So now we're back to just 2 questions. A few other options we could go through. So, we talked about short answer, paragraph, multiple choice is good. Multiple choice checkboxes and drop downs are all really common for our purposes. So multiple choice might be, how long have you lived in Vermont? And then 0 to 1 year, 1 to 2 years, or 2+ years. So that allows people to only select one option, multiple choice. Now I'm going to duplicate it duplicate that question and change it to checkboxes. And so checkboxes allow you to select more than one option. This question doesn't make sense for multiple options because you fall into one category or another, but not multiple ones. So let's say, what counties in Vermont have you ever lived in? Windham County, Windsor's a county, right? And then is Bennington a county? What's another county in Vermont? Okay. Cool. So then people can select, I've lived in Windham and Windsor and Bennington, or just one of them. That's what checkboxes are for. And then lastly, drop down. So let's say you have a ton of options, like 50 different options, and you don't want to actually list them all out here and have people check the boxes. You do drop down, and it'll only show you one pill at a time. So what country are you from originally? All right, and then we want to say like USA, Canada, Spain, Mexico, France, Australia. Like, let's say I want to list out all the countries in the world. Japan, China. Okay, we won't actually do all of them. But this list could get very long very fast. So it's good to have the drop down because then you don't see all of them. You can just kind of scroll through the list and select one. The last question type that I want to share is rating is really good. So if you want to ask people like, what did you think of our last event on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being excellent and 1 being bad? And then people could select the stars to provide a rating, and that could be useful for a number of different things. Okay, so now I have all my questions in there, and there's a few things that you could do with formatting and theme. So this little art image here, customize theme, if I select that, I have the option to change the font on here. So let's say I want to pick like a cool font. You saw that just changed right there. I could change the font of the question headers. That makes it a little bit hard to read, but a little more interesting. Change the color, the background. So I'm going gray, orange, and I can choose an image. So they have preset images here. I think I can select. Okay, so these are, pictures of our rally. I guess it's too big, so it won't let me insert it, but we'll just do a preset one. So let's select that. And then at the top, it's a nice picture. So you can add like a logo, or you could add, whatever picture you want. And folks will see that when they click on this form. So I like how my theme looks. I got all my questions in there. Now what I want to do is preview it. I haven't published it yet, so people can't actually fill out the form, but this preview just allows me to see what they would see if they go to the form. So you can see here, this doesn't look quite as messy as the back end developer version of it. This is like very clean, just has, the question and then a response. So let's go through the questions that we created. What is your first and last name? I'm going to fill this out as if I was a respondent. Tell us why you're interested. I don't really feel like doing that, and it's not required, so I'm going to skip that question. How long have you lived in Vermont? More than 2 years. What counties in Vermont have you ever lived in? I've only lived in Windham County. What country are you from originally? And so you can see here this drop down. It doesn't have all of the countries listed here. It just has them when you click on the drop down, so it's a little bit more compact. And then what did you think of our last event on a scale of 1 to 5? I'm going to say 4. I don't know why it won't let me submit, probably because it is in the preview mode. But if I were a respondent, then I would click submit, and then it would go into a backend form, which I'll share in a minute. So let's go back to the main page. I think that all looks good. All my questions are in there. It's working as I had hoped. So I'm going to hit publish. And publish form responders are anyone with the link. I can change this so that it is, if I only want to share it with like 3 people and I don't want it to go beyond them, then I can just add them here. Otherwise, if it's a public form, I would make it anyone with the link. And then I'm going to hit done, publish. Okay, so it's published. You can see that here. So the way that you share this out with people is this little link image. So copy the responder link. I usually do shorten URL and then copy it. And then you can share that link with, in an email, through text, through whatever way people can receive links. So it is a really good way to just blast out a survey or, whatever kind of information collecting form that you want to create. And I'll just quickly share with you what the responses look like when you get them, because there's a lot of things you could do once you get the actual information back. So I just copied the form and I'm going to put it in a browser. So this is the user-facing version of the form, volunteer interest form. So it says your response has been recorded. I can submit another response. I'm not going to. I'm going to go back to the main or the backend version of the form. And you can see here, there's 3 tabs: questions, responses, and settings. And next to responses, there's now a 1 bubble, which is the number of responses that I've gotten on this survey. So this is me. I just responded to the survey. There's my information. It puts it into a nice pie chart. So, if you get 100 responses, you could see the breakdown of how long people have lived in Vermont, the counties that they've lived in. There's all your responses. So it's a nice data visualization of the results of a survey. The last thing I want to share is just if you want to dig into the data a little bit more and have it in a sheet, there's a link to Sheets here. So I'll click on Link to Sheets. It says create a new spreadsheet or select an existing spreadsheet. So I could say, this is my volunteer response form and create one, or select an existing spreadsheet. If I hit select there, it gives me a bunch of options for existing sheets that are already in my Google Workspace. So previous video, we talked about the event planning template in Google Sheets. So I'm going to click that one and add the responses to this form into an existing sheet, just to keep all of my event planning stuff in one spot. So moving to that sheet, event planning template, you can see this is my response to the survey. And so now anytime anyone responds to that Google form, the volunteer response form, their responses will start populating this spreadsheet. And so it's very easy to see, these are all the people who responded. Here is the timestamp of when they responded, why they're interested in joining, how long they've lived here, where they've lived, where they're from, and then, what their response was about our last event. So it's a really powerful tool, again, for collecting information, for analyzing information, and for storing it all in one easily accessible spot.
Thanks, Jessica, for that excellent introduction to Google Forms. This completes the series of introductory videos on Google collaboration tools. If you like this video, please click the button and subscribe to the channel to receive notices of new videos on other aspects of effective organizing. Together, we can accomplish good things. I'm Mike Palmer. See you next time.